So as we talked about earlier, Iran's sea mines could be one of the most dangerous weapons in the region, and the regime has stockpiled thousands of them capable of shutting down the critical Strait of Hormuz. So let's turn to the wall to learn about how some of these sea mines work. Of course, the way they work is they detonate either on the surface or just below the surface, triggering an explosion that can create a gas bubble and shock waves that will tear a complete hole through a ship, sinking it or massively disabling it. You have a variety of different kinds of mines. You've got floating mines that are on the surface. You've got other mines that are moored. They're attached to the seabed floor, and so that they can't be seen until the hull, which runs several meters deep below the surface, hits them. You also have more modern mines that use infrared and other radio waves in order to detect a ship coming by, which is why a lot of the mine-sweeping ships that the U.S. military has used up until recently still have wooden hulls or fiberglass hulls so as not to detonate those mines. And of course, all of this comes down to the fact that and the reason why Iran has managed to hold the world hostage with its oil is by the fact that if they can control that Strait of Hormuz, that little dip of the water that comes up deep into their territory, then they can control the most important economic fuel that runs the entire global economy. So to learn more about this, let's bring in former CENTCOM Director and U.S. Army Colonel Joe Buccino. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Colonel. So, we talk a lot about dominating the air in a battlefield. We don't spend as much time talking about dominating the seabed floor. Walk us through how that process works.
Yeah, well, really, Charlie, this is a nightmare more than 30 years in the making. And the reason this is so challenging is that while we're fighting a really high-tech war with AI and precision-guided missiles, stealth jet fighters, what you just indicated there on your wall is a World War I style of combat that Iran is waging. And these mines are a tool of really psychological warfare. We don't know how many are out there. We don't know where they are. And that creates fear and shuts down flow through the Strait of Hormuz. There are a number of ways that we defeat these mines. The first is preemptive, which you saw CENTCOM releasing that strike footage of strikes from the air on Iranian vessels that are implementing those mines and dropping those mines before they can do so. We also have our primary tool, our unmanned surface vessels, the Knifefish unmanned surface vessel, which is autonomous, and helicopters that use radar and sonar to identify and determine the mines, primarily the moored mines, the mines that are connected and anchored to the seabed, and the drifting mines that float with the current.
And the way that process works is those ships or those whatever is seeking out the mines actually goes and tries to trigger them and make them explode somewhere not near a ship.
That's correct, yeah. It uses a combination of sensors, of data analytics that tries to make sense of where these mines are, detonate them either on the seabed or at the at the surface of the water, and try to detonate them when there's nobody there, when there's no real threat in the area. The issue is we really just don't know how many are out there or where they are, so the mine hunting in this sense is kind of limited.
And do you think that Iran, you've broken this down perfectly, and the psychological warfare aspect of it is so important. Do you get the sense that Iran is actually acting in sort of a rational sense in how they're doing this, or are they relying entirely on the fact that it is psychological and these giant ships are terrified of going through the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, it's both. I mean, Iran is exploiting a capability gap in American naval assets. We've decommissioned most of our Navy mine-clearing ships, the Avenger-class ships, And so now we're reliant on these unmanned surface vessels and these helicopters. And Iran understands that. Iran's always understood that. And they understood it's not just a psychological tool, it's an economic tool that's holding the United States, Israel, and the world at risk.
And obviously, President Trump yesterday announcing that the United States attacked Kharg Island, writing on Truth Social, I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. Okay, so that takes military control, anyway, of the most important receptacle island that controls Iranian oil, but that doesn't get the oil through the Strait of Hormuz. How does does taking control of Kharg Island have any impact on this effort to get clear through the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, first of all, we may have just regained the initiative with this strike on Kharg Island. It's escalation with restraint. We didn't hit the oil. That's the lifeline of Iran's military effort. It funds Iran's military effort, their ability to produce ballistic missiles and drones. But we could do that next, and that's what President Trump alluded to, or was actually didn't allude to, was very specific about in his Truth Social post. So that could be the next step. That's something that Iran really does fear, that we've never done. No president has ever done this prior. And so that's the next move up the escalation ladder. That could bring, and let's hope that does bring, Iran into some sort of negotiation where they allow fuel to go through the Strait of Hormuz now.
Colonel Joe Buccino, thank you so much for your explanation here.
Thanks, Charlie.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.